Mehmet, welcome again. What demand is one thing, and we've just addressed that point a little bit, but supply is the other big one, obviously, of the equation. And the comments we had yesterday and we've had all week really is that the world has plenty of supply at the moment, no shortage. Russia is continuing to flow in terms of into the east, into India, into China, higher figures being reported by the month. And of course, despite these OPEC cuts that we've seen, we still have enough supply for the time being. Give us your take on that, and also an update, if you can, on the other peripheral suppliers that have been limited so far, such as Iraq, oil coming out of Kurdistan, etc., even Iranian oil, whether you see that making any difference in the second half.
Yes, well, I think, first of all, on Chinese oil demand, I could say a few words. China is bound to increase the demand, because if the economy is not performing well, because China needs huge amounts of new employment, because for the Chinese leadership, stability is the key, and population is increasing, one-child policy already abandoned. So there is a need to push further. So there will be more stimulus packages coming, and I believe that towards the end of the year, perhaps summer might be somehow like this, more stable, but towards the end of the year, Chinese oil demand will go up. Of course, there are trade frictions, geopolitical tensions, investment decline, as indicated, FDI going down. These are factors. However, I think China has the power domestically as well to push forward its economy. And so there will be increasing demand there. And anywhere where the price will be falling down, OPEC Plus will step in again, without any regard to their decisions to meet, once in a while. But now I think if there is a demand falling and supply increasing, of course they have to take some adjustment measures. In terms of supply, yes, there is abundance of oil, as you said, especially the Russian oil coming at discounted price, heavily discounted price. Now India buys record amounts of oil, or almost 2 million barrels per day out of their, 80% of oil in India comes from imports. And they cut back some of the Saudi and Iraqi oil. So this is I think, signal that we have to mention here is that trade diversion is taking place significantly. So the traditional suppliers somehow change now, and Russian oil making inroads in Asia Pacific in times that we haven't seen before, at the expense of some of the Gulf producers. So coming back to your question about the Iraqi Kurdish oil, as you know, almost 3 months passed since the Turkey halted the shipments coming from KRG and also Kirkuk field of Iraq. So this was about 400,000 barrels per day for Erbil, and they lost about $2 billion in this 3 months, plus 77,000 barrels coming from Kirkuk. So this is not a significant amount, of course, for world oil markets, $100 billion. So what is this for almost 500,000? But still, it is very significant for KRG region. I believe that there is going to be an agreement. This has been delayed on 2 accounts. One is that Turkey was fined, as you know, by the International Chamber of Arbitration Court in Paris, $1.5 billion. And then a second one is on the way for the period covering 2018-2023, another 2 billion. I think Turkey has the right to recourse to KRG for payment of this and then negotiate it with Iraq. If they pull it back, their complaint against Turkey, perhaps this might be the precondition for resuming Turkey, allowing the resumption of the oil shipments from KRG and Kirkuk. So I believe that the high-level discussions are taking place. Yesterday, Barzani was in Turkey being received by President Erdogan, and a Turkish team was in Baghdad and Erbil, technical discussions. So I believe that in a matter of weeks, perhaps even earlier, a political decision will be taken on this matter, but resolving also all these problems. If Iraq doesn't give in about abandoning its complaint against Turkey in Paris, I don't think that is going to be possible. So this is give and take.
Okay, thanks. And Erdogan is now back on the stage doing his thing, and I want to come back to you and talk about the Turkish economy a bit later. Nuraz,
Then it has taken a little bit of market share.
yeah, and
Well, could I just say one
Yeah.
word about here? As you know, the Moody will be in Washington today.
he is
And
already, yeah.
Yes, already
Yeah.
he's there, and they are going to
Well, he's
discuss
heading
a number of important issues like nuclear issues, arms, and Russia business. But I think oil business will also come into picture there. U.S. would like to have a greater share of oil exports to India, so that's one of the other factors that we should perhaps mention, because the discussions will be going on broader geostrategic and economic issues, but oil will also be one of the hot topics to discuss.
Yeah, absolutely. Rafiq, well, let me go back to you. Let's talk a bit about Erdogan now. Has he settled in? Has he settled back in to his position comfortably? And what is the outlook? He's made a few ministerial changes on the economic front, sending that message that I'm going to correct everything. What's the sentiment now, a month or so into his re-election in Turkey?
Well, Erdogan really settled in very quickly, since he has been, of course, in governance more than 20 years. He knows his business well, and he started immediately with a new cabinet, which has been actually received quite positively by all the political circles. So this is a very pragmatic, non-confrontational, and business-like cabinet. And the foreign minister is the former chief of the Turkish intelligence. Mehmet Şimşek came to head the economy, and he's a very respected former economy minister. Also, he was working as a consultant to many financial and economic groups in the Gulf and in London and US. So he's respected. We have a new governor of the central bank, a lady who came from the US. And therefore, I think the team is in place so long as Erdogan doesn't interfere too much. As you know, he doesn't like interest rates going up. And the team, I think, can do a good job, it looks. And so we have to wait and see. There's going to be a phased approach to economic recovery and changes. It's not going to happen overnight. So we are expecting the new interest rates and the currency, how it's going to be handled. But my concern is that since there's very serious finance problems, shortage, there's a foreign debt to be rescheduled soon, and current account deficit is booming, around $60 billion. And how are you going to finance all these energy projects? We have mega projects, as you know, in the Black Sea for the gas project. It's going ahead still. And there is new discovery of oil in Gabar, near the Iraqi border. And of course, Turkey is heavily dependent on imports of natural gas at 98%, oil almost 95%. Therefore, the local production will be going up. I think more importantly, geopolitical relations, how Turkey is going to balance, its closer ties with Putin, Xi Jinping, Iran, because we had a meeting in Astana yesterday between Russia, Turkey, Iran, and Syria about the future of Syria. There is a roadmap already, I think, discussed but not agreed yet on how to improve Turkish-Syrian relations, because Syrian precondition is that Turkish troops should be withdrawn from there. But I believe that a solution will be found there sooner or later. So that Turkey is normalizing its relations. But how it's going to happen with the US and EU is another question, because it's troublesome. But Turkey is expecting most of the economic support, investment, trade, technology, what you have, finance, from EU and US rather than the East. And I think Erdogan is handling it well, and he's also preparing now, quicker than the opposition, how he's going to handle the local elections coming up in March 2024. And he wants to get back Ankara and Istanbul, which is the heavyweights in Turkish local politics. And therefore, I think it's going well. If there is no disruption, geopolitically, economically, energy-wise, it's well balanced. But Turkey needs quickly massive amounts of fresh capital flowing into the economy, wherever it might come from, the Gulf, US, China, Russia. But it's going to be a very balanced and stable policy now. We can see ahead of us 5 years. Of course, if Erdogan's health doesn't deteriorate and create another crisis, things seem to be going well. On China, I want to add another thing. Don't forget that China has huge capacity for storage. As a caution, because if we expect Chinese demand will go up towards the end of the year, China is preparing for this, buying and buying and buying more than it needs and storing it for the rainy days.
Well, thank you, Mehmet, for that geopolitical sort of crystal ball view on what's happening in France now. I saw you nodding there. In terms of Macron, you know, we had the leader of Saudi Arabia there earlier this week. We've got the Chinese premier there as well, in the context of the US having just visited China as well. The US really seems to be losing its footing, doesn't it, in terms of leading these conversations?
Well, I think Macron is trying to fill a gap, because right now, I mean, the positions in EU and US are very, very strong vis-a-vis China and also Russia. So there is a need for someone to pick up the pieces. And Turkey actually was doing it to a certain extent, but it's not a member of EU. And talking to Putin and Macron and Scholz and US and UK. But on the EU side, there is not a very strong foreign policy czar. And Macron wants to be so. It has serious problems domestically, as we all know. So he wants to show off in the international arena and also to sell more French arms and technology, increase exports and import investments. Therefore, he's trying to create a new role for himself. How successful he's going to be? So far, track record is not a very good one, but we have to see and assess what's going to happen. But I want to say one word about EastMed, if I may, to follow up what Refik said. Yes, I think Cyprus missed the boat for LNG. There are so many pipeline projects. I think this EastMed pipeline idea already died a long time ago. It's not feasible politically, economically. And I think there is a renewed effort to perhaps transform EastMed Gazprom, which excludes some of the players, including the major player Turkey, and moving away from only natural gas focus, perhaps, renewables, efficiency, climate change, finance, risk, all these issues perhaps might come under a new umbrella, a new transformed perhaps EastMed Natural Gas Forum. And the idea that we also discuss in Germany and France and US, and the EU is also looking at it favorably, and some of the regional countries, whether Turkey could be included in the new structure, which could be perhaps renamed as EastMed Energy Community. So there are different ideas floating to reduce tension and increase cooperation in EastMed, so that it's going to be win-win for all the parties.
Okay, I think we're going to end on that positive note, because we don't have a lot of those these days. Mehmet, thank you